Today, the Tour du Pont rendezvous with the mountains. Yesterday, Phil Anderson won. Will he be a challenger again today, or will it be the American, Bobby Julich? It's all uphill in Virginia, and some names to conjure with are Mike Engelman near his camera, Dag Otterudsen and Thierry Claverola. As we penetrate deeper into Virginia, perhaps Norway's Atle Volsvold, or the Frenchman Laurent Fignon, or even the American Greg LeMond will become the new race favourites. The race goes on. It was just after dawn this morning. A sporting battle was about to begin from the Antietam battlefields. The riders up at 5 o'clock to make ready for an early start. 4 climbs on the menu today, with the 5th over 2 miles to the top at Manasluton Village Resort. A long way up and everything to fight for. The cannons of Antietam fought a war in which thousands died. There were no winners. Today there will be a friendlier conflict. Hello again, everybody. I'm Phil Liggett along with Brian Drebber. Well, today the 102 survivors of this year's Tour du Pont leave the rolling countryside of Pennsylvania and in Maryland and head out into Virginia. This is day number 6 of the 1,000-mile race to Washington, D.C., and now the hills are with us. It's the longest stage. It leaves us right here in the Antietam battlefields in Sharpsburg and goes out to a hilltop finish at Massanutten. Brian, it is long and very hard today.
And Phil, it's an early start today, and I think maybe once the sun gets finally up, it's going to be quite hot. A beautiful spring day in the Virginia mountains. You know, since this race started, very little has changed. Dave Mann took the yellow jersey away from Greg LeMond in the second time trial, and since then it's been pretty much status quo. Now that will change as the mountains that everyone has been waiting for are finally upon us. Greg LeMond is poised in 3rd spot, just 12 seconds behind the 2 co-leaders of the Coors Light team, but it's his Z teammates, Thierry Claverola and Atle Volsvold, who are considered the climbers in this race. And Phil, anyone in yesterday's stage up the mountain saw that the Z team pushed it over the top. They're going to be very, very difficult to contend with.
The 1992 Tour du Pont is brought to you by DuPont. And welcome back to today's stage of the Tour du Pont, and it's the Coors Light team who have been making all of the news so far this week.
It'll be harder than it was yesterday.
You mean the second to last one?
Yeah, the next to the last one.
Swift Run?
Yeah, Swift Run.
Well, that looks like a lot of fun.
And it's actually about a 10K climb, and it gets steeper at the top.
It starts where yesterday finished.
It starts at 130 miles to climb, and finishes at 136. So 10K. Dave, you're going to have to be really sharp on that one. But I figured that there'll be 20 to 30 guys that should go over the top on that. It should be a pretty good group, just like it was the other day. Which, Michael, hopefully it will be that many people, so you won't be isolated with any of the Z guys. And if you're there, look to see who the Helvetia guys, if Delgado's there, be there and ride with him. For today's finish, Michael, I think the most dangerous guy is probably Atle. So if you're not feeling well and you're pretty isolated, then I would just stay with Atle and mark him and don't let him get away and get a bonus. You might have to let one of the other guys go. Probably. But if you look at the GC, you really only LeMond and Atle are the close guys from their team. So, and LeMond, I think, will lose time on Wintergreen. Atle won't. So I think Atle's the guy you've got to mark.
And here's the man they're speaking of, Atle Volsvold, runner-up in this race 2 years in a row, one rung from the top of the ladder in the Tour du Pont. He is the man of the mountain for the Z team, at least in years past. But this man, Thierry Claverola, a new addition to the team, has been the king of the mountain in the 1992 Tour du Pont. He has had his way in the mountains thus far. Terry Clavier-Roulard and Otley Kvalsval, a dynamic duo.
I think we are the strongest team in the mountains. So I think we can, on the top of the hills, we can be maybe five or six.
And there's a few teams would like to see this strategy this morning. The Team Z take advantage of our climbing strengths, they say, and all of them can climb well. That's the words of Serge Boucherie, the team director of the French-based Z team. And here's Laurent Fignon this morning, still in 11th place, 1 minute and 11 seconds behind the lead, and that's firmly on the shoulders, well, perhaps not so firmly on the shoulders, Brian, of Dave Mann.
Gianni Bugno, the world champion and world #1, faring a little worse in 22nd place at 1 minute and 48 seconds. His team, along with Abelardo Rondon, the vaunted Colombian climber, further down still at 60th place, nearly 4.5 minutes behind.
Dagotto Lauritsen won here 4 years ago, and always a dangerous man. And Phil Anderson, well, we saw him win yesterday in Hagerstown, and what a great win it was. Time to have his hair plaited, it seems.
And fit up with that two-way radio communication that Team Motorola has taken great advantage of this season. They are still perfecting that technology, but they are way ahead of everybody else using those radios in the peloton.
So there we have a nice little hairdo for Phil Anderson for the long ride today. The longest stage of the race, remember, and it's taking them into the hills. Now, Dagotto Lauritsen is our main GC hopeful. I would agree with that. He's riding so well. Those are the words of Jim Okovitz, the team director. Well, of course, the man of the day is Dave Mann, and our man, Kevin Cusick, is with him.
Dave Mann, you took the yellow jersey in the time trial in stage 2. We're now heading into stage 6, and the mountains could be a factor today.
Yeah, today's going to be a very hard stage. I mean, it's going to be a long way, so I think the riders are going to be pretty sedate for the first half of the race, and then maybe once we start getting towards the big hills towards the end, that's when you'll start seeing some real action. And I mean, I've been climbing really well. Each day I get stronger and stronger, so it may be another day where I can hold on to the jersey, but if not, I just hope one of my teammates will be there behind me to fill it when I leave it.
3 fairly tough climbs along the way to Swift Run Gap, and then an uphill finish to the Massanutten Resort.
And the cannon announces the start of stage 6, 151 miles from Sharpsburg, and heading now into the hills of Virginia. And I would imagine if the riders are feeling like we are, Brian, at this time of the morning, they're not going to be in too much of a hurry to eat into those mountains.
Indeed, some of them have their arm warmers on. Greg LeMond among them as he rolls off from the starting line. And waking up might be the toughest thing that these riders have to do, at least early in the race. This is something that's quite unusual, a start at 7:45 a.m.
And that, of course, means that breakfast is served at 5 a.m. this morning. And I would think that the legs of one Amaya rider who was in the lead yesterday, Abitier, is going to feel very, very tired indeed.
Dagotto Lauritsen and Greg LeMond having a little early race chat. Roy Nickman moving up to the front, where the Coors Light team will have to stay to continue and defend the yellow jersey of Dave Mann.
And these look like the legs of a world champion, Gianni Bugno, and indeed they are. Well, he's got to plan his move at some stage on the road to Washington, D.C. We haven't seen too much of him yet. We've talked a lot about him, but he's yet to turn a pedal in anger. And the Coors Light at the back and the front of the field. This looks like Alexei Greywall here, who's talking to his team car. A busy day ahead for him. This race is now going to come to the crunch period, and the boys from Coors Light are going to have to pop a few good cans of beer today to hold this lot back.
It'll be their 4th day in defense of the yellow jersey that Dave Mann wears.
And welcome back. We're underway now in today's stage of the Tour du Pont. Well, this year, with the advancement of technology, you know, there's no reason now for the riders to shout at one another, nor the team manager to shout at them. Here's our own Kevin Cusick now to tell us exactly why.
Technology has been playing a larger role in the sport of cycling the past few years. Disc wheels, aero bars, and Lycra skin suits are all designed to help the individual rider increase his speed. Well, cycling, as you know, is a team sport, and the team from Motorola has been using the latest technology to keep them at the front of the pack.
Phil Anderson serves as the playmaker on Team Motorola. By speaking into this tiny microphone on his handlebar, he activates a two-way radio communication system, allowing his team to react to whatever circumstance lies ahead.
Phil, you got a copy? Over. Okay, here's the procedure for the finish. We're going to be doing, coming into the finish circuit, the first time over the line, they're going to take the finish time.
Team director Jim Akowitz is always receiving various information from the back of the peloton and quickly passing it on to his riders. No wonder Phil Anderson believes this technology is here to stay.
It saves time because I don't have to go around and individually tell the riders. My director doesn't have to continually come up to the bunch and tell us, what's going on in the race, because he can see things easier than us. Yesterday he was telling us, what was happening up the road, and we didn't have any idea. Well, we had some idea, but he could give us, from the race radio. He'd hear it on the race radio and tell us directly.
Racing is a team, and we try to do a good teamwork all the time. Cycling is more team sport than people think. But these radios are helping us to coordinate quicker, and we can react much quicker to a situation. Instead of losing a group by 2-3 minutes, we can react directly if it's a dangerous group, and there's a lot of things that it can help with.
It's a bit safer. The team director doesn't have to always come up and tell us what's happening in the race. Like a lot of the team, the cars come up alongside of the riders, and at times it's very fast and dangerous, and then you have this car coming up here with somebody trying to talk to you, and it gets a little sketchy, a little hairy. So this way, the safety thing has really increased a lot.
Well, it's hard to believe a bike race was ever run without those communications, isn't it, Brian? Here we are back with the field on today's stage now as they head towards the finish at Matternutten. And look at this, Stephen Swart there looking pretty happy considering he's in second place so far.
And jealous, perhaps, of Anderson with that radio. Some of the other teams are starting to use it as well. It's technology that can't be denied.
Well, it looks like we started the climb here of Snickers Gap. This is 39 miles into the race today, a third category climb. The second one of the day, by the way, at South Mountain, which came after only 10 miles. Thierry Claverola increased his lead in the King of the Mountains, and he pipped there the Belgian rider Patrick Evenepoel.
Claverola on the way up, wearing the King of the Mountain jersey. He has just been fantastically at ease on all the climbs, the young Russian. Ratnikov and Vyakov, these two young men. The oldest on the Russian team is 21, the youngest only 17. Wearing those solid blue jerseys that almost look like the King of the Mountain jersey worn by Claverola of Team Z right there.
And the rider in the front there, Patrick Evenepoel, who's coming into the picture here as a good climber, riding for the Belgian Koolstrop team, and it's him who's attacking now as he goes away. Claverola immediately takes his wheel and then finds the speed. This man is superb in the King of the Mountains, and look at the little Vyakov just behind him, the Soviet. He's on his wheel too. Claverola seems to have more speed. Well, that'll come with age for the young Russian rider, but he's ridden well there to claim second place on top of the climb.
And Claverola of Team Z continues to dominate the King of the Mountain competition, although he is 3 minutes 39 seconds behind on overall classification. He is certainly the king of the mountains thus far.
Of the peloton for more than a few minutes. They've all been brought back into the fold, and the race heading down towards its finish now, with everybody still in contention. This is the back of the field here. Nathan Dahlberg has a problem. He's decided now is the time to change his wheel or his bike, and he's pulling to the side of the road. Nathan Dahlberg on the 711 team, Motorola team. He rode in the Tour de France with 12 hours notice, and he finished the race. I remember that ride a couple of years ago, Brian, and that was a superb performance from this man from New Zealand.
Dahlberg taking a rather casual approach, as are the mechanics, to his bike change. Laurent Fignon doing the same this early in the race. The speed has been very, very slow. Almost pedestrian touring pace of just over 17 miles an hour. So Dahlberg is back into the action. and no panic from any quarter in this particular situation.
He'll pedal his way back in. He's a professional. He's read the race. It was a good time to make the decision. Whatever was wrong with his bike, it's a change of bikes for him now. And the big platoon that started from the battlefield this morning now cuts its trail into Virginia.
102 riders remain out of 105 that started this race. The attrition has taken its toll. A few riders falling ill and stopping by the wayside. You have to finish every stage in order to continue the next day. There are, as I said, 102 who have chose to do so on this morning.
And the yellow jersey of Dave Mann still content. Things going his way thus far on today's stage of the Tour du Pont. And he must be a little surprised at that. The youngster there, Thomas Bye, he's joined the Motorola team this year, turned down the likely ride in the Olympic Games. But the smile reflected here off the face of Dave Mann, and the sun is shining, but he's surrounded, Brian, by the boys from Motorola. Is that ominous?
Eladio Ambite, most aggressive rider on a long, desperate solo and unsuccessful breakaway in yesterday's stage. He was out there in the hot sun long enough to get a little burn. He doesn't want that to happen 2 days in a row.
Now we're heading down towards the first sprint of the day here at Ver.Ⅱ. 70 miles covered now by the riders. The little breakaways have been picked up all of the time. The field looks as though it's coming down for one big sprint.
And here it comes into the town of Ver.Ⅱ. It is John Brady sprinting against the German Thorsten Wilhelm. Wilhelm holds the jersey of best sprinter, but this time it's Brady of Team Spago that gets the points at the finish line in Ver.Ⅱ.
So as the race goes on, we will take a short break and then we'll come back as we continue the Tour du Pont. And welcome back to the Tour du Pont. We are now on the road towards the finish at Massanutten, and we're looking now at the face of a young man known as George Hincapie, Brian, a very young man indeed. And he's trying now to cut himself a little slice of history.
1992 is George's first year as a senior rider. Last year in the World Junior Championships, he won a silver medal, a bronze medal, and was sixth in the team pursuit. He is making an auspicious debut in the pro ranks against the likes of the Gatorade team. Laurent Fignon sitting in second spot there. And these top professional riders are right now seriously in arrears of the young American on the Skittles USA cycling team.
Well, to bring you up to date entirely what has been going on today since the riders were all reformed and they are now heading up towards the finish. George Hincapie broke clear at around on Route 231 at around 58 miles left to go. You've just seen his lead is down, in fact, to just over 6 minutes, because at one stage it was 7 minutes and 36 seconds. And here's Chris Carmichael, team manager of the Skittles USA team, advising him exactly what is going on. He's got to have a chance now, Brian, because the field have played around. They've gambled with riders going away all day. They brought them back, and this man they won't know.
Team Z going to the front along with Gatorade. Everyone just marking the front of the field. They're keeping track of just how far ahead Hincapie is. In fact, on the general classification standings, he is in 61st place, trailing the leader, Dave Mann, by 4 minutes and 31 seconds. So his lead of over 6 minutes at this point is, in fact, put him in first place in the race, and the field won't like that.
And the Coors Light team have found themselves some strange allies here today, because it is the Gatorade team of Gianni Bugno and Laurent Fignon who seem to be lining out the bunch. There's Dirk de Wolf a couple of weeks ago, the winner of the classic race, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. On his inside, you have Laurent Fignon, Thierry Claverola is here, Lance Armstrong is here, Jérôme Simon, Atle Volsvold. These are the heads of state in this year's Tour du Pont. They're all moving now because they have been rather surprised by this attack. They've allowed a rider to get over 7 minutes, and they realise he is not going to come back of his own volition, as in fact happened to the Spanish rider yesterday. Here he is. He's riding very, very strongly, Brian. It looks to me as though he might be just starting the climb here of Swift Run Gap, and that puts him about 22 miles from home.
George Hincapie, a big, strong, and very aggressive rider. His aggressiveness has taken him off the front. It remains to be seen how strong he's going to be. He certainly is big, a very tall guy, won 4 junior national titles in 1990, and was marked yet another in a long line of riders to be the next Greg LeMond. And here he is at the top of the climb, going up to Swift Run Gap. Very close to the finish right now, and he leads by 3 minutes. Not enough to take the yellow jersey from Dave Mann, but enough to win this stage if he hangs on.
And he's gone over the top there, 15 miles from the finish. It's got a little bit of downhill before he starts the long climb. It's over 2 miles, in fact, up to the finish. And where we are commentating to you right now, The crowd is massive and waiting to see if this young man, George Hincapie, can hold off the field. And remember, he's holding off some of the greatest names in the world of cycling, and there's one of them right now in the centre of our picture, Laurent Fignon. And George Hincapie barely out of his junior ranks. First year amateur, I almost said professional, first year amateur rider, 18 years of age, and now trying to hang on for victory in his very first Tour du Pont, and that would be a big surprise.
Ahead of the riders lies the climb to Massanutten Resort. They have climbed quite a few smaller hills and a big mountain over Swift Run Gap that they are just on the downhill from right now. George Hincapie riding very strongly on the flats. That's his forte. And look, the field spread across the road. They've brought him back to 3 minutes. The yellow jersey is not in danger. And now the attacks for the remaining places are starting to come.
And that was Antonio Sanchez who shot through our screen there. And one of the Helvetia boys, I think it was, went after him. Reaction from Jerome Simon. So the field now, Roy Nickman, I think it was, went through there, Brian. The Z teams. Yes, the Z team's gone through as well. Phil Anderson for Motorola. Now this is the reaction that could well close down that gap very, very quickly indeed. He's got to keep his nerve, he's got to keep his tempo, and hope that he can hang on in there and that the counterattacks will not come too quickly.
In the car is the brain trust of the U.S. cycling team, Chris Carmichael, a veteran of the Tour de France himself, and the man that most people are giving credit for the real progress in the U.S. amateur program. He is the guy that puts up the big numbers for the likes of Lance Armstrong here, who is now in a chasing group, marking the chase, in fact, after his teammate George Hincapie. He does not want these riders to bring in his teammate.
That's right, you're right, Brian. Just to explain that the rider in the middle of these three, his job there is to try and deter the attack, try to stop them getting the rhythm going, to pull back the man in the lead, George Hincapie, because, of course, they both ride on the same Skittles team. So the field is stringing out now, the chase is on, and George Hincapie's lead is coming down. We'll take a short break, come back for the climax of this year's Tour du Pont here in Virginia. Thank you very much, Jim Kelly, and we are now live with these pictures from the Tour du Pont. We apologise for the little bit of breakups we're experiencing. This is to do with our microwave link from our cameras out on the road, going up to the helicopters and beaming the pictures into your homes. The world champion, Gianni Bugno, and the rest of the pack. And the bad news for American fans is that George Hincapie has just been caught by the whole field, and they are coming up now towards the finish line, almost all together. We did have a little bit of a radio contact that the yellow jersey was in a bit of trouble at the back.
Indeed, Dave Mann off the back of the lead group right now, so that he will have a problem if, in fact, either his teammate Steven Swart or Greg LeMond or any of the other riders are ahead of him. Dave Mann in the yellow jersey being marked by riders not on his team, and this is a solo race, an individual effort that each rider must make. It is Terry Clavier-Roulard, we got a glimpse of him a moment ago, of the Z team in the King of the Mountain jersey, that's leading the pace up the hill and shelling the field, Phil.
Well, let's go back up to the leaders now. What we saw there was Dave Mann trying to just hang on to the tail of this field, which is absolutely flying now up towards the summit. There is Dave Mann. He's being marked, in fact, by Juan Carlos Garcia of Spain. Also with him is Dirk de Wolf of Gatorade. He is tantalizingly close to keeping this yellow jersey. He's hanging on to the back of them. He knows it. But what he may not know, because he hasn't been in this area before in the United States, is that the last kilometre or so, Brian, to the finishing line is very, very hard indeed.
There's that group led by Clavier-Roulard, the King of the Mountain jersey. Helvetia rider behind him, Dag Otto Lauritsen of Molarola in third spot. But it is Clavier-Roulard that has consistently been able to hurt people on the climbs. He now swings over, and the whole field coming across. Greg LeMond, second from the right there, is among the leaders. And if he's able to put as much as 12 seconds between himself and Dave Mann at the finish line, Greg LeMond would be the new race leader in this event. Atle Kvalsvold now makes a move with that familiar grimacing face, and Dag Otto Lauritsen and Greg LeMond in turn try to follow him.
And the man here has blown, he's hit the wall, and this is the end of Dave Mann in the yellow jersey. He almost hooked up there. The field is split. In fact, this lead group is about 15, 20 riders strong. Here's Dag Otto Lauritsen, and alongside him is Atle Kvalsvold. They are trying to break clear now because they know if it comes up to the line in this group, then Titi Clavier-Roulard of France is going to get in.
Dag Otto Lauritsen knows because he has the radio in his ear. He has been told that Dave Mann has blown up. That's why he is forcing the pace. He is privy to information that Atle Kvalsvold does not have. And you can see it in Dave Mann's body language. He is finished on the hill.
Well, Dave Mann is now being passed by just about everyone, including one of the German riders here. It looks as though it was Uwe Preisler who won a stage of the race when we were in Stroudsburg, but now he's struggling at the back, just like the race leader, Dave Mann. because I'm afraid the hills of Virginia are proving to be great levelers for the non-climbers. Volkswagen, a hot favourite now to move into the yellow jersey, up here in the lead with Dag Otto Lauritsen. If it finished like this, of course, Brian, Dag Otto, because he's 5th overall this morning, would be the new race leader.
They're on a little downhill portion that's just before the steep last little climb up to the finish. The road gets very narrow. The crowd begins to build very shortly here. They have a little rest on that roll downhill, and Atle Kvalsvold making the big effort with Dag Otto Lauritsen. They look both to be riding well within themselves, Phil.
Well, this has been such a hard day. We've another rider coming across the gap now, and we think it might be Beat Zeeberg from Helvetia who's sprinted across the gap. If it is, that's a fine ride by the first-year pro. He's got across, though, to Dag Otto Lauritsen and Atle Volsvold. The thing is that Volsvold is struggling here to try and break the attention of that chase group, and they're having a lot of trouble. Remember, these pictures coming to you live as we come towards the finish of the longest stage of the Tour du Pont, and we're on the final climb of the day, and this is without doubt the toughest. Volsvold believes in himself. He believes he has the ability to outclimb anybody in this race, and he is now trying to put that fact home here. As just take a look at the face here, if you can see it, of Dag Otto Lauritsen in second place as he tries to hang on to Volsvold up towards the line.
Now, Atle Kvalsvold trails his teammate Greg LeMond by 59 seconds, so LeMond right behind him here is the one that will probably take the race lead. Kvalsvold will get the stage win, and he is in the finish right now. Atle Kvalsvold, the Norwegian mountain man, runner-up 2 years in a row, gets his stage win, but Greg LeMond right behind him unofficially will be the new race leader in the 1992 Tour du Pont.
Well, that's the way we read it. Remember, of course, these pictures are live, but I would say that Brian Drever is absolutely right, because Volsvold has done what he said he could do. He's won the stage. For my money, he is still the big favourite for the Tour du Pont, but right now, by virtue of his 3rd place overall this morning, Greg LeMond started today just 12 seconds behind Dave Mann. Dave Mann is now out of it. He's been lost by the field on the way up the mountain here, and here is poor Dave Mann now coming in. His few days of glory have passed him by. He's led this race from Friday when we were in Wilmington, and now in the heat of Virginia, I'm afraid he's still coming home. Greg LeMond is well home, sitting down, enjoying the finishing line atmosphere, and I think you're probably right, Brian, that Dave Mann will have lost his lead to Greg LeMond, and Dave Mann knows it now, but whatever you say about him, he has ridden the race to the best of his ability.
He certainly had a great run in the yellow jersey, and the Coors Light team has done a super job to keep him in it for the last 4 days. He took the jersey from LeMond in the second time trials after Greg had a flat, and now LeMond has taken it on the mountain.
Well, Brian, Dave Mann has lost 1 minute and 8 seconds on the climb in the last 1.5 kilometres of the ascent up to the finish here in Massanutten, and that means indeed, for my money, we need to know the whereabouts, I suspect, of Stephen Swart, but let's look at the state of these riders who have raced today for the best part of 6.5 hours, and this following on. There is Stephen Swart. Now, the question is, was he close to Greg LeMond as they came in? If he was, then he'll be announced as the new race leader, because he was 11 seconds ahead of LeMond this morning.
Indeed, if Swart finished in contact with Greg LeMond, it becomes a mathematics game now, but if Swart and LeMond were together, then it will be the Coors Light teammate of race leader Dave Mann that will take the jersey away from him and not Greg LeMond. We are waiting for the official word on that. Who will be the new leader of the 1992 Tour du Pont?
So let's have a look then where the riders will go tomorrow, because there's plenty of more mountains for this race, believe me, and it's been a tough race already. So they stay in the hills of Virginia as they move on stage 7 from Harrisonburg, Virginia, to the Homestead, that beautiful town in Virginia. It's a hilly route too, it's a long route, and the riders going to face another 85 miles in the saddle. One thing's for sure, this race will have a new race leader now. Look at this for a profile. It starts innocently enough just below 2,000 feet, and then it goes across the Shenandoah Mountains again, heading down towards the finish. Remember, the 1992 Tour du Pont has been brought to you by the state of Virginia. Tomorrow, it's stage 7. We stay in this beautiful state. The big field rolls on. For Brian Drever and Kevin Cusick, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye to you from the beautiful state of Virginia, and remember, we now have a new race leader.